Good evening, and welcome to another edition of African Americans Ain't Africans, the talk, think, trying to get that brain to move show that proves without a shadow of a doubt that the so-called African American didn't find his way to America in the trunk of a ship. I'm your host, the indigenous one. And tonight, we're going to take a look at some of the things that when you look into our communities, it seems that we're not on it. We're off kilter. Something seems to be off. We keep, playing these same games over and over and over again. We're always doing something that don't work. We're always rooting for the wrong people. We always tripping over our shoelaces. We always don't know when they gonna do something for us when you haven't lifted a finger to do nothing for yourself. We're gonna talk about why is that? What is that? You just can't never, you ever see that movie Life? And they had that brother who just couldn't get right. He just couldn't get right. He just couldn't do it. And one of the questions I always ask, and wanting an answer, is why is this? Why can't we say, okay, you know what? It seems like the Asians aren't going to buy anything from us, so let's stop buying from them. Maybe all that money that we give to them, we can circumvent that back to us. The African American just doesn't get it. Or, these people make these tennis shoes and charge us a 400 or 500% markup. And we don't care. We just gonna get these shoes. And sometimes couldn't we produce our own shoes? And you would think the people that go to colleges and these intellectuals and all this would agree. And the presidents of these historically black colleges and these ministers would say, hey, yeah, we should do that. But it never comes to pass. Nothing that seems to put things in perspective for us or make things better for us never comes to pass. And I always wonder, why is this so hard? About 20 years ago, a friend of mine turned me on to this guy that you see on the screen right here. His name is Schneider. Now, unfortunately, in the African American community, why you got a white boy up there? We just, you know how we do. But I was turned on to this guy, a friend of mine. He's a friend of mine. He's kind of off grid, and he told me to check this guy out because he's saying some things that many of us really don't want to hear. So I listened to the guy, and as he pulled his shirt off and showed his body and blah, 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 he was explaining that he had a firefight with some aliens. Their weaponry was top notch. These bullets that we have are nothing. And this video I'm showing now, and you can find them online. They cut this cat up like a fish, and he shows you his body and stuff. And it got me to look into other stuff of things that we don't see. Maybe we feel it, maybe we know it's there, maybe we just keeps our mouth shut so nothing will happen or become of it. And this made me think, well, maybe it is something supernatural happening to us. Maybe it's something is that's going on that always got us chasing our tails. Tonight, I'm going to introduce you to a sister that talked to me about some of the things that are going on with us in this supernatural world. And I thought the audience would be, willing to give her a chance because she got some cold stuff. And I know many of you, especially if you're not in the mainstream, you have came face to face or in contact, or some of these things are to be true. This supernatural stuff, these supernatural ideas that are going. So at this time, I want to bring you sister. She's been on the show before. She wants to share some things with you and listen to what this sister's saying, because I bet you some of you in the audience have experienced some of the same things or somewhere close. Ray Thomas, welcome to African Americans Ain't Africans.
Thank you very much for having me on the show.
Oh, well, I did all the talking I'm gonna do. Hit it.
Oh gosh. Well, let me see here where to start. Well, I started off on this paranormal journey by growing up in a haunted house. So, and it was pretty bad. When I was about 6 or 7, there was this presence, ghost, or I don't know what it was, that would terrorize me. I would say a ghost. I never actually saw what it looked like though, because it would walk up the stairs. I would just hear it walking up the stairs. Sometimes it would run up the stairs and then walk. So it wasn't repeated. Like a lot of times in the paranormal community, we have there's different kinds of hauntings. There's like repeated and there's intelligent. Like we'll keep it categorized to those two for now. So repeated haunting would be like let's say somebody got murdered, in a house at like 12 a.m. or something. And then they screamed there and their impression got caught in the house, because houses can keep impressions too. That's why sometimes you get haunted houses and these type of things. So maybe every night on the day that they got murdered, at 12 a.m. the person will scream. And there's no intelligence to it. It just does that like clockwork. 12 a.m. every year or every week or whatever the pattern is. Intelligent is when there's not really a set pattern, and it recognizes that you're there, if you try to communicate with it or anything like that. So I would say this is more of an intelligent haunting, because it wouldn't come on the same time. It was like random that I would try to walk up the stairs, and it terrorized the shit out of me. It was so bad that I had to close the door, because I used to keep my door open 6 or 7. I had to close the door so I wouldn't see. It needed to be pitch black. I didn't want to see anything. And then I had to have the radio on, because that's the only way I could go to sleep. I didn't want to hear anything. Years later, it turns out when I had asked my mother, that she had heard the same thing but just didn't want to deal with it because, she had to go to work in the morning. So when I would tell my parents about this, both my mother and my father, I didn't tell my father so much because he really didn't want to hear about it. They would just say it was the house settling. So that started me off knowing that, things weren't always as they seemed.
So how did your family deal with it? What was their overall, how did they come up, what was their final say on it?
Oh, they didn't deal with it at all. It was just the house is settling, go back to sleep. It's your imagination.
A lot of people will say that you was using drugs.
At 6 years old?
No. I'm just telling you what people. I'm just telling you what people will say. And that's what I'm saying. How we don't deal with it. We keep running away. We keep trying to wiggle out of it. And that's one of the things. Oh, you on drugs, or you was high or something. to take away from the fact of what you seeing is real. And the reason I'm sharing this, sister, tonight with you, because we've all had these kind of experiences. It may not have been how it came across to her, but we've all experienced it. And we don't want to say nothing because we think people will think we crazy. That's why my hat goes off to this sister, because she brave.
Yeah, a lot of people like I've been because I've been too. I do my orgonite and my radionics and Rife and my EFT and stuff. And I've had people come up to me at booths and just can I talk to you? Sometimes people just sit down and talk to you, and when they're describing these stories, um, people aren't laughing, and it's very embarrassing, particularly ones that did stuff they shouldn't have done, like try to sell their soul to the devil or something like that, doing some old what's that guy's name, the guitarist Robert Johnson or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, up on some old Robert Johnson shit, but for like other stuff. Like,
So would you say that's real? Do you so you we hear all these stories about all these hip hop artists, about all these Kanye West mama killing his mama, blah blah blah. We hear all these stories. Give us your experience on those.
so the person I was just telling you about, I'm not coming in too loud, am I? I'll try to move the microphone away from my face.
No, you coming in loud and clear.
Okay, good. So I was at this conference, and the first time I had seen this guy, we all had gone out to like lunch, some of my friends and I, and he was there, and he sat at the table, and I remember he sat directly across from me.
Who?
And I did not enjoy my dinner because he had pimples, and one of the pimples was like oozing pus.
Who?
So that was my first experience with him.
With who?
And
Robert Johnson?
no, not Robert Johnson. I thought you meant
Oh,
my story. Is that what
oh,
you talked
okay.
about? You want me to mention the Robert Johnson story? Which one did you want me?
No. I understand. I'm talking about your experience. I mean, Robert Johnson. I mean, I've heard of him, but I've never met him. So I'm just, I want to hear
Oh,
your side.
oh, okay. Well, I have a personal story, but I can tell everybody about the Robert Johnson story real quick if you want, just to kind of, you
Yeah,
know.
kind of give it to us, because that's when all this selling the soul comes in at.
Yeah, so Robert Johnson was this musician. He was a guitarist back in, God, maybe
The
the
20.
early 20th century, I
Yeah.
want to say. Not sure what year, down south. And he was a horrible guitar player. I mean, he really wanted to be a guitar player and be famous for it so badly. And people were just like, "Listen, you suck. You need to do something else because you're just awful." So he he basically made a deal with the devil. So, somebody told him, "Okay, well, if you really want to do this, because that's what he was wanting to do." He said, "All right, well, what you do is you go down to these crossroads." And I'm not sure what kind of offering he met. Maybe he just had to go walk down there. So he got met by, they say it was the devil or whoever it was. Not necessarily it has to be like Satan or the devil. It could be another demon. It doesn't, like, just because you're going to sell your soul to the devil doesn't mean that the devil or Satan or whoever pops up and takes your soul. It could be something else. Or even maybe they just, keep you in bondage or whatever. So anyway, Robert Johnson, yeah, I really want to, be a great guitar player, great guitarist. And, devil was like, all right, there's a price for that, you know, and, I'm going to come get you later, pretty much. So, next thing you know, Robert Johnson, the next day, started playing fabulously, like he's been a pro all his life, and nobody knew how he got so good. He was like, man, like yesterday you couldn't even pluck an A string, you couldn't play scales, you couldn't do anything. How'd you get this good? And I'm not sure if he like told them at that time the story or not, but it turns out that at like, so I think it was after some years he had gotten all the women, the fame, the money, and then the devil came knocking. And I think he died at the age of 27 or something. So that's the legend in a nutshell of Robert Johnson.
Okay, so here, I kind of like to be interactive with the audience,
Sure.
So we have this cat, Indigenous Indigo, say Phil Schneider is a fake, been debunked. And so this is what I'm saying, guys. This is what I'm saying about me. Did you debunk them? And you're going to say, no, somebody else debunked them. You don't know what was said. And I don't. That's normally how we act towards. What was debunked? This cat had a razor, a burn mark going across his torso, and his fingers chopped off like a hot butter knife did it. Explain that.
Yeah, that and even what was the guy's name? Elizondo came out and said the United States has been studying extraterrestrial technology. And that was actually in mainstream news like a couple years ago.
Right. So this is
They've
what,
already come out with this stuff.
yeah.
Now, whether Phil Schneider has been debunked or not, I don't know. I tend to believe him and what he said, but you know, I guess to each their own.
Well, no, but I'm saying I think this is what I want to talk about as far as this supernatural encounters. How we're always locked. We're never we don't we always stop the flow of energy. I mean, it's something that we do. I mean, something
Well,
somebody can show you. Somebody can experience they self. You couldn't have, we
well,
everything we're like that on. So this is the question I wanted to ask you.
sure.
With that mindset and that we can't never do it, we need to get together. I can't tie my shoes. All the shit we come, no, because this is what we do.
Yeah.
See, I'm just saying it. I'm just
Yeah,
saying
it's
it.
funny. I'm just
But this is what we do. Could it be some kind of supernatural forces making that happen? Because I don't see where anything like on the human scale where people can be this dumb.
Well, I mean, there's that, and there's also like humans, like you do have like hundreds of years of Christian brainwashing and stuff like that. So, even in the Bible, they talk about King Solomon using like demons and stuff like that. So it's okay for the royal people to use magic and to believe in all this stuff, but you commoner peasants, you slaves, whatever, nope. Here's a Bible. There's no such thing as like ghosts or anything else like that. And then if you're not into that, then there's scientism. But from what I've heard, like, a lot of scientists do believe in God and the paranormal and stuff you can't say. So I think a lot of it's like brainwashing.
Well, earlier, as you and I were talking,
Hmm.
you were talking about as far as this soul thing goes, because I truly believe that these bodies, these where are these names that we go by and all this, those are just avatar. We're just really into it, and we're really a part of energy can never be destroyed. So we're
Right.
just an energy force doing what we can in this body. When it's over, we lay this down, go elsewhere. You were telling me earlier today about a Middle Easterner, a Middle Easterner who was a gambler. Can you
Oh,
share that
right.
story?
Sure. So that was the story I was going into, or my first encounter with him was his like, pus drilling down his face pimple. That was my first encounter. The next day, the Middle Easterner guy, same guy, comes and he sits down at my booth and he's like, "Hey, can I talk to you?" Um, and I'm like, "Sure." And usually when people talk about these kind of stories, there's not some like, there's no smile on their face. They're usually very embarrassed about it. Um, so he basically said that, he lives in Australia, where he said that the way that the blacks, so-called blacks, are treated here in America, that's how they treat Middle Easterners in Australia. And he said they actually have Middle East task force that come around, and it's on the car and everything. And he said, so, his family moved there. His mom was like a crackhead or something, and her husband, which would be his father, was an alcoholic and wasn't around. I think his mom might have gotten herself a little cleaned up after that, but I think she may have still been on it. But he came from like a troubled family, and they were all gamblers and all this stuff. So he said that, he didn't want to fall into being a crackhead or an alcoholic or just like a loser like the rest of his family. So he said one day he got a hold of this book about like, satanic magic or whatever, and he decided to try the ritual. And he summed it up, he called it the devil or demon or something, and he said, I want to win at gambling. Like, I want to make a living out of this. I want to be a great or the greatest or whatever gambler. And the price was, his soul. So, and I'm like, he seemed really like, embarrassed about it. Some of the information I had to etch out of him, meaning asked him, questions in debt. And I was like, so you sold your soul to what would be known as Satan or the devil? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, well, did it work? And he said, let's put it this way. He said before he would lose at gambling, he said he would win sometimes, but very rarely. He said after that, he wins all the time and he makes his living as a gambler. And then I said, well, how do you know that he took your soul? And I said, here's a better question. I said, because, your soul, your spirit, there's a presence in you, that's operating this avatar or whatever. So I said, tell me. I said, did you feel that presence in you before you did the ritual? And he's like, yes, I did. He said, I felt the presence. And I said, well, what did you feel after? He said, I felt nothing. And I feel nothing. Like nothing's there.
Hey, bro.
Hey, you here?
Yeah, you know me. Hey, just sit on my door. Can you sit on my door with your woman?
Yes.
Right, I get on. I'm trying to help him get his keys. I'm locked out of his truck.
Okay.
All
right. Sorry.
No problem.
Sorry about that. Okay, so this is what I mean on that aspect. Could it be this is what's going on with us as a group of people? We're always on this material. The material means everything, and the person doesn't mean shit.
Well, the material realm is known as like, this is like Saturn rules over this, and some people say Saturn Satan or whatever it is of material. So I would say Satan is more of a force. And, I would say a lot of people, not just our people, but a lot of people are infected with the spirit of Satanism. Now, they may say that they're Muslims, that they're Christians, that they're all this, but that's a name only. But at heart, what they are Satanists. So to answer your question, yes, but so are a whole bunch of other people. Does that make sense, or?
I'm still trying to figure it out because this is what I'm seeing. This is what I'm seeing. There's a group of people connected to a certain landmass, and what I'm seeing, their lives don't matter, not even to themselves.
That's the spirit of it. Like, we took on, unfortunately, the Skina. That's a Jaliki word for evil, of our invaders. So when they said that, we were black, we were from Africa, we, just care about money, 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 and you're willing to like kill your brother or your sister over a purse and some goddamn shoes. That's a problem. You're satanic. You're evil. And you took that on because, you have no respect for yourself. And if you look in the mirror and don't have respect for yourself, you're not going to have respect for other people that look like you. You're not going to have respect for children who look like you. It's just an opportunity, and you're just, I'm just going to take your stuff, and if you die, good, because you're bad, because that's what we've been taught.
Okay, so this is where I'm saying those forces come in. With what you just said, there was a song put out amongst the black as they called themselves then, a song came out about blacks, and it was a song called "Respect Yourself." Nah, nah, nah,
I know
nah.
the song.
Remember that one?
Hmm.
Cold cut, and all it was telling was respect yourself, and it was funky funk all over it. It was a cool song, and it introduced us to a woman named Mavis Staples. I guess she went worldwide after that, and she
Mm.
was bad. But the song was saying, respect yourself. Or around the same time, a song called Money, 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 Money.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Money.
you know, and this was 50 years ago. And would you say the situation has gotten better or worse since then?
Are you kidding me? It's gotten much worse. We've like degraded. Like music like that compared to like WAP. I mean, oh God. I
Uh,
don't, and just celebrating like, money and like slutism and hoardism and hoardism or whatever it is disgusting. We've certainly regressed and music is not what it was before. But then again, they wanted it like that. Remember that guy that came out that there was this white boy who was in this meeting and he was just basically like, when the conscious music was starting to come out more and like late 80s, 90s, they were like, no, we don't want that. We don't want them being conscious. Put all this like other crap out here, mumble rap, NWA shooting people, all this, shooting folks who look like you, being thugs, hoes, and everything else. Like they wanted that stuff out.
I and to and so and my question to you would be this: when we talk about these supernatural forces and forces unseen and forces that can make a whole bunch of people do whatever they put out, that's what I mean about supernatural encounters. Because like you said, 50 years ago the music was funky. It was, I mean, it always had was telling you something, and that shit just got wiped out with that disco. you know you know so, and that's what I'm talking about, is that, are we dealing with supernatural forces when we talk about the music and what it's done and what the musicians used to mean to us, or what the musicians used to mean to everybody? Because can you imagine getting 20 people, 20 brothers on stage making one sound, and it sounding tight?
Wow. Um, wow. That seems like a fantasy now, even though we know it happened. But yeah, they have I was doing some research and it turns out that they've mentioned that they have sorcerers, people who are practitioners of the, black magic arts or dark arts that actually cast spells over the tracks of songs in an effort to send demons out with them and possess people and make them do messed up stuff. Now, would you say with like the music that we have now as a community that's happening?
Yes,
Hmm.
yes. It's I mean, because you don't even hear a tambourine. You know what I'm
No.
saying? You don't hear materials made that gives you pitch, and what
You
instruments
can't
do.
you can't they don't even you can't even hear actual words on some of these songs. It
Right.
just sounds like a whole bunch of mumble rap, like somebody has marbles in their mouth or something like that. You can't even
Right.
understand what they're saying.
So what is that meant to do? Because you can tell a culture by what they
Destroy.
destroy.
Destroy. That's all. Destroy, kill you, get as much money as they can out of you. And drop your ass into a pine box and that's it. Just like the pharmaceutical industry or hospitals get as much money as they can. Have you noticed they don't cure anything really or don't purport to? They just put
Right.
bandages over stuff, cover up symptoms, get as much money as they can out of you. Then you're going in that pine box 6 feet under. Same thing with music. Pimp you out, get as much money as they can. You all want to act like this, even better. Why waste anything? If you want to listen to this music, go out, kill people, sell yourself, do whatever, even better. Because then they have stuff for you. So when you need therapy years later, or you have to get up on drugs or whatever it is, or you're spending thousands of dollars at Gucci or whatever it is for these designers that don't give a shit about you. Death. It's all death.
How much energy, if you could wave your magic wand and you can guess how many indigenous people living here in North America with their energy focused on themselves, each other, just focusing on that. That's my hope. I mean, I don't think it'll happen, but if we just happen to run into that, because that's what it seemed like it's going to take.
Well, see, the unfortunate part about that is everybody has, or a good part too, everybody has free will. So you can't control other people. It's up to everybody to do their own work and to control their actions.
Right.
So
Right.
it's like, everybody knows what's good and what's bad. And you know how you know that? Because, okay, you want to go and you rob someone, right? And you think that that's good. Would you like someone turn around robbing you?
Right.
Or, whatever it is. Like, woman
Right.
has a husband and you go out and you want to act like a thoth and sleep with him. Well,
Right.
would you want someone doing that to you if that was your husband?
Right.
So people know the difference. They just want to make liberties to do whatever they want to do.
Right.
And it's their responsibility to change it. It's no one's responsibility to give people anything. That's one thing as a people we need to get over. You're not entitled to shit and nobody owes you shit.
Right. Right.
It's your responsibility to get your life together and to do stuff. You know what you have to do. And really, as people, the only thing we really have to follow is what has been termed as natural law, meaning no theft. Meaning you
Right.
don't steal people's possessions, you don't take people's lives unjustly. Nothing wrong with killing, something wrong with murder, meaning you took someone's life unjustly. Killing, if it's self-defense, somebody's trying to do irreparable harm to you, and you take their life, well, it is what it is. They deserved it.
Right.
But, taking people's possession, taking people's sexual chi through rapes and this kind of stuff,
Right.
Needs to go. And
Right.
other than that, you don't owe anybody anything.
Right.
Just not to violate their natural law rights. And if people got on that, then, we'd really get somewhere.
Right. Spiritual encounters that we have, what forms could they come in, or what forms, with you talking to people, what is the most popular form?
Well, sometimes, you can run the gamut of alien/interdimensional experiences, or straight up demonic, meaning succubus and incubus, or succubi and incubi. Succubus being like, or succubi, that's the plural, being the female demons who, sexual demons, and incubus or incubi, the male sexual demons. And, well, you know what? I can tell you a story.
So when you say male sexual demons, because I'm sure there are male sexual demons, could you explain how they work and what they do? Because all I hear is you said it was incubus in a male, succubus in a female.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, I only heard the succubus.
Well, basically all of it is about energy. So energy is currency, right? Everybody has energy, and there's all these things out here that want to take your energy. And the difference between the incubus and the succubi as compared to something else, like the government taking our money, or stealing it rather.
Right.
Money is another form of energy. It's backed up by fate, or faith rather, fiat currency. So with these sexual energies, they take, sexual. So you get something in the night or whatever like that, climbs on you, have a sexual experience. You could have been attacked by an incubus or a succubi. Doesn't mean you would enjoy it, but, usually they'll hold you down. You'll have a paralysis, like sleep paralysis. I know somebody who got attacked by an incubus.
Damn.
And huh?
So that's real.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Luckily for her though, she made it her servant, so don't know how that happened, but it certainly regretted doing that the second time it came back. The first time it came, she told me that she felt like paralysis and could feel it crawling up her back, pulling at her back strap. I mean her bra strap. Uh then I'm trying to think what she said. She said there was this voice. So here's how she had spiritual help too. She said there was this voice that said, say words or something. And she said, next thing you know, she said some words, heard the thing shriek and scream, and it disappeared. Then it tried to come back again sometime later. I like forgot how, maybe like less than a year, maybe later. And that time she had some spiritual help and made it a servant. So that kind of stuff happens too.
Okay, so what are these things? Because I've heard similar stories before, and I've experienced some things like that. I mean, that's why it's like, okay, it's not that we're not the only ones on this planet. If you don't know by now, you ain't looking.
Oh yeah, I mean even Bobby Hemmett talked about them. Although we're like I have a lot of respect for Bobby Hemmett's research, but we're going to have to differ in one aspect. And I don't remember what lecture this was, but he was talking about, yeah, you all better let those those entities come down and have sex with y'all and blah 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 blah. Pretty much talking about Incubus. Not that extraterrestrials don't do that either, but basically talking about letting these entities come down and like rape you.
Right.
And I'm thinking to myself, you can't tell people that. And just let it happen. Like, what the fuck? Like, excuse my language, but that's exactly what I was thinking. I'm like, you can't tell people that. Like, but
the movie They Live, how real is that?
I'd say that that's pretty real because you do have, like, not everybody's a human who walks around in a human husk. You have many different entities, and people have talked about them aliens, some of them reptilians. But in terms of, actually, I think the person who made the movie actually said it was a true story.
Yes, I heard that too.
So it's like, if you think about it, money, is that not people's God?
Yes.
That's a lot of people's God. Doesn't have to be, but
That
that's
would, so what do you think about that? In that movie, the black people weren't the aliens. What do you think about that going through the movie?
that the black people weren't the aliens.
Yeah, you didn't see black people who were
Oh,
those
I see.
monster
I
trucks.
get what you're getting at. um, well, a lot of people have talked about how, like, let's just take reptilians for example. They seem to like Europeans more. So, I mean, I know for a lot of so-called black people talking about the serpent seed and how they were Anunnaki, or Adomaki, or whatever the Syrian word is for that, but I don't know. But I would say, if you want to look at it allegorically about America, is that what you mean?
No, I just mean, because you're talking about entities.
Hmm.
You're talking about spiritual battles. You know how sometimes we always say this is not a physical battle, it's a spiritual battle. And I'm
Uh,
and this is what I'm saying. Let's take Islam.
mhm.
Let's take Nation of Islam. They learned a part of a religion from Persia, from
Mhm.
Pakistan. That's where
Mhm.
Fard Muhammad was from, Pakistan.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Huh.
You take a whole way of being. You mimic a people from another part of the world, and you start to do that on your own people, on your own land. That's what I mean about spiritual battles. It's not, you have people who are connected to the land here, and they're supposed to be keeping this, the stewards of the land over here. But since we're all in these other supernatural religions and beliefs and trying to be other people, I mean,
Well, that's also, even though I feel the same way you do, and I'm a bit harder on our people about the stupidity and stuff about, Africa, America, and Muslims and Greeks and, whatever, everything but Mother America.
right,
We've had hundreds of years of brainwashing. I mean, and hardcore. And our colonizers still live with us, and they invited other people to come over and act like colonizers too. And then we have our own people who act like colonizers. So, it's just been like hard brainwashing for like centuries.
so what do you say we do?
We can free our mind out of it. I mean, people can't act like they're nescient, which means that, there's no knowledge of it. All of it now is ignorance. We pretty much have the Library of Alexandria, meaning the internet, at our disposal. So if
Right,
people wanted to get themselves free and get an education about where they're from, there's grandma, you know, there's ritual. Because remember, even the Indians, or I'm sorry, the Native Americans, the white Asian ones on there, had to get a lot of their rituals from the Library of Congress because it was illegal to practice.
right,
What's to say we can't do the same thing?
right.
I mean, so I mean they're a bit ahead of us or whatever like that in terms of that, but because while they get their asses kicked too. I mean, it's not like the original people of this land, at least Eastern Woodland Indians and elsewhere too, all the way down South America, the islands out west, you
Right.
know. But we've gotten heavily brainwashed and had, violence, to back that up as well. Whereas, for example, I have a friend from Pakistan, older guy, and he said when he first came over, he came over with nothing, got helped out a lot, and moved to this town where the Ku Klux Klan was. And he said that one of the guys offered to help him. He didn't know he was a Klansman at the time, helping to put a roof up or something like that. And one of his friends were like, "Hey, you're talking to that guy? You know he's Ku Klux Klan, right? Like, what are you doing over there talking to him?" He's like, "What?" So he asked the guy, and the guy was like, "Oh yeah, I'm Ku Klux Klan, but you don't have anything to worry about." And then my friend went on to tell me that in that town, this was like probably like 50 years ago or something, that or 40, that they were like, yeah, you can stay here, but any like blacks that come to town have to get out by sundown. And he asked me, he said, "I don't understand, why that happened. Why did they have like why were they like that? Why didn't they have a problem with me?" He said, "Because I was scared, and then because I had heard about them, but then when they said they wouldn't mess with me, I was fine." I said, "Listen," I said, "don't get too comfortable. I know it's past that, but you're still not white and you're a darky like everyone else here.
Right.
And at any time, they will turn on you." I said, "Other than that," I said, "you're a foreigner, so you're not a threat." I
Right.
was like, "A lot of the people here who are called black or African Americans are actually indigenous people.
Right.
So that's why they say that. And like anything else, when there's a war, they seek to subjugate the population, convert them, or blend them in, or all out exterminate them." I was like, and I said, and that's what happened to us here. And I said, so technically, so you have a bunch of Indians that look like me. And I said, I'm an American Indian. I'm not a black or an African. I'm from here. And there's many others that are the same.
Right.
And I said, so when you have that and you're dealing with that dynamic, you now find yourself a prisoner of war on your own land. And I said, that's what we are. We're prisoners of war on our own homeland.
Yes.
And you could see like kind of like his face kind of contort and he looks down like it was an awkward conversation, but he asked the question. And if you ask, I'm going to answer you.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and
I
and and what I find, and I what I find with the foreigners, their attitude towards the people here is repugnant.
well, that's because over in their countries they weren't shit. So when they come here, now you have a permanent bottom class that would be us.
Right.
And now you're a step up above. As long as you're not what's considered black, hey, you're good. You're almost like white folks, and if you want to keep that, you're going to act like that. Or if you're dumber, you just listen to whatever the media says and what everyone else has said without ever meeting a so-called black person, and you proceed to treat them that way. But they weren't crap over in their country. They were nobodies. And over here, and they were probably bottom class over there, because a lot of these people who come over here, some of them are rich, because for some of these countries, it takes a lot of money to even get out of their country.
Right.
So, and some people, we get the dregs that come over here, which are, the trash from the other countries.
Right.
And they're no longer trash anymore. Now you're trash.
Right.
And they proceed to treat you accordingly.
I can't believe it. I can't believe it's going down like this, and we just la 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 la. And
Yep.
and when you say we're brainwashed, I mean, God dang, isn't it a time when you're supposed to be like, wait a minute?
Well, you know what? This is our fault to a degree. So it's one thing if people who come over, take over your land, say that you're this, that, and all the negative stuff, they're going to be like that because, not that every European or every Asian or African, because I'll consider them along there too, because they're always like, I am no nigga, till they get treated like one.
Right.
So I'm including them in that too. And I've been treated rudely at the hands of Africans, particularly the women. But it's one thing if these people say that they're not your people. So people who aren't you, you expect to say negative shit about you. You know, it comes with the territory. But for you to take it on yourself is the ultimate sin. The ultimate law down here is self-love. And for you to take on, not you, but for people to take on the identity of their colonizers and call themselves by these names and proceed to treat each other that way is our fault.
Right.
And that's a sin of ours. That's our fault.
Yeah, I seen this.
And
I seen this a long time ago. I was coming through Atlanta's airport, and you know how they have the people who get on the airplane, they need a wheelchair,
mm-hmm.
and this Indian cat had to come pick up this sister from the plane, and I was right behind him. He dogged that sister out from the time he picked her up until the time that he pushed her up the ramp.
Oh, Lord.
When he got to the ramp where the sister was going, I pulled him to the side. He apologized to the sister. But I looked at her, I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Why would you let somebody talk to you like that? What? I'm like, huh? I said, you couldn't go to his country and do that to his people.
Yep.
But you will let anybody come do anything to you.
That's right. And that's the biggest sin. It's the sin that we commit amongst ourselves. So
Right.
The only time this is going to change is when people get tired of it. So I'm going to say this, as a people, we're not tired of the murders in the street, not only by cops, but our own. And that needs to get addressed. We're
Right.
not tired of our women being out here whoring themselves out, acting like sluts, basing how they're supposed to behave on WAP, like hoes like Cardi B and Meg the Stallion. We're not tired of it. That's why it keeps happening. Not tired of all these children out here with no fathers, right? Thinking that that's great, and it's not. Not tired of other foreigners coming over here and treating us like we're less than, even though they came from their little pigsties over in them third world countries somewhere. Because people want to talk about the hood here. Try going to some of these countries where these people are from.
Right.
That hood is like the hoods our people live in are like palaces.
Right. Right.
And you still want to have like low self-esteem about yourself. You come over here and we make all these other people wealthy, while our children languish and starve in the streets and commit crimes because their parents ain't got no goddamn sense. And we're supposed to be happy with this, that we help support these foreigners and not our own.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. We're always asking for somebody to do something for us, but you ain't willing to do it for yourself.
Victimization. We as a people, unfortunately, want to be victims now. The struggle was over up after they burnt down Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Seneca and Rosewood and all this stuff. Let's not do anything else. Now we just going to be a bunch of victims and have our hands out all the time, and people have not realized that nobody respects weak people. Nobody respects weak people. Nobody respects victims, and nobody respects them. And you can tell that regardless of ways. Just look at how the penal system treats victims and how the law treats victims. Nobody likes weak people. Nobody respects weak people.
Period.
Period. End of statement. Yes.
And it's evident by the foreigners that you let come into your home and you just love them to death.
Yep. And they sure don't love you, but you want to keep, getting like, Gucci, all the rest of this stuff, waiting in line, 6 a.m. store opens up at 12 for some Jordans or a PS5 or something, or, wait outside like, the Korean man or the Chinese store for some like, horsehair off of some horse's ass in Central Park, or like one of those like those ceremonies in India where they shave their head and has lice and everything else all over it, willing to spend money on that.
I saw the interview with Ice Cube did with the Four Sisters. What was that?
Oh God, good question.
What was that? Is this what sisters have been reduced to? And somehow we think it's cool.
No, it's just embarrassing. That's all. Nobody. It's not cute, and it's just entertainment for everybody.
This was I love Patricia Johnson said this: weak men on their knees to a strange God.
Yep.
That sounds like the name of that's a movie. That's a movie. You got to start naming movies that weak men on their knees to a strange God.
And that's right. And you know what? If our ancestors were to see us now, and I'm sure they do, they'd be shaking their head in shame.
Right.
They would. It's past embarrassment. It's pathetic.
No, no respect for self.
None. And as much as we can say this has been taught, this is our fault. Because somebody can offer you something. Like I can offer you like a rotten apple, right? Or some rotten chitlins or whatever it is. But it's your choice on whether you want to take it and eat it or not. And unfortunately, we've eaten the rotten chitlins, the rotten apple, and are asking for more. Haven't had enough, that's all. When people get sick of stuff, they change. We're not sick of it.
Have you ever seen a whole bunch of birds flying and they be in sync?
Mm-hmm.
That's how we're supposed to be. You ever seen ants, a whole bunch of ants on some candy?
Yep.
You see how they all crawling over, they crawling over each other, crashing into each other, but the candy still get disappeared.
Yeah.
You ever see a school of fish? They swim in precision.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we're supposed to be.
Yeah. And you know what? We all don't have to get along, but I'm gonna tell you, all the rest of these people, they don't necessarily like each other. But one thing's for sure, they're certainly going to come over here and take what's yours. They're on code for that.
I don't think they're taking. I think we give it to them. That's what I'm
Oh,
seeing.
right. Yeah. Yeah. You're right.
I mean, come on.
So, I mean, the only thing that happens to a people that keeps doing this is death. You cease to exist,
I think
and you're compliant in your own extinction.
so. Speaking of that, talking to one of my homies, he goes, "Yo, man," he go, "Why ain't we?" He goes, "Why are we still here?" I'm like, "Dude, you're not 13% of the population. You're at least 50% of the population in America. How can what proof you got of that?" And I said, "Okay, let's do this. I'll give you the proof to back up my statement, and you give me the proof to back up your statement." I mean, right or wrong. He
That's fair.
said, he go, "I'm with it." I said, "You're at least 50% of the population because you take care of all the foreigners that come over here.
That's right. They.
Now, your statement is we're 13%. Show me." He
Well, he
had
probably pulled out some statistics or something.
he had that dumb ass look on his face. So he's just repeating what somebody else told him. That's how most Negroes go anyway. They don't figure it out for themselves. They don't pick it up in like a baby trying to learn something. They don't do that. They wait till somebody tells them what it is. Then that's what they go by. Serious, right? I mean, right?
Yeah.
That's how it is.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, don't get mad at me because I'm just saying how it is. I'm not saying it's supposed to be like that. There's a myriad of ways we can make it work in our, make it work for us.
Yeah.
And we just won't do it. I mean, and it's like, damn, y'all, really? You didn't have a political party to take down these two bozo parties by now?
Well, that wouldn't have happened anyway because presidents are selected, not elected. So they already have who they want to get put in there. That's why people, for example, people are like, anyone can be president, right? Well, why is it that, for example, you have to be rich to be president pretty much because of all the campaign funding and stuff like that? And not even just that, I mean, any office. And once you get up there, if you happen to get in there, they'll corrupt you.
Oh,
So, oh, yeah.
yeah.
And, if you're not down with them, they'll find a way of framing you. Everybody has a vice. Or they'll just
Oh,
set you up.
I mean, isn't it? I mean, aren't we tired of that?
Apparently not. Just saying.
Oh, voting. What do you think on this voting as far as what we're talking about supernatural encounters and spiritual warfare?
Well,
How is that voting playing to that?
Well, when you're voting, you're giving your energy, right? So, first of all, you have faith that this voting process, oh, yes, it's going to be the same. It's going to be different than it's been for the last how many 100 years or whatever, like that. Yeah, they're finally going to do something, you know, and you're giving your energy over. You're like, just walking there, getting in a car, putting clothes on, having a purpose to vote takes energy. Um, we have entities out there that eat energy. Then when you get mad and you want to burn the place down because um, this candidate didn't win or whatever it is. Well, there's entities that eat up that energy too. So all people really are down here is food. People don't like to hear that. They don't like that being
Explain,
said, but it's true.
explain why.
Why we're food?
Food, yes, because I've heard that before. But why? But explain it to the audience.
Well, we have energy, and there are energy vampires. Not only that, but you have demons and other entities that eat energy. Because what else is there to eat in the spiritual world? Like, you need energy to exist. We're energy. We have to have energy to get up in the morning to exist. Everything takes energy,
Right.
you know? And, when you get upset and you get mad, like our people have a lot of emotion. Don't think that doesn't get eaten up. I mean, hell, we can see that,
Right.
in a third dimension here,
Right.
people get mad and they burn stuff up. And then what happens? The candidates use that as fuel. Well, this isn't going to happen in Black Lives Matter, even though all the people in Black Lives is pretty much white and all the money goes to the Democrat Party, right? Yeah, so, yeah, right. And, all of it's energy. And the only thing we're doing, we feed people energetically, or entities, demons, whatever they are, energetically. And we feed other people third dimensional wise through money, because that's that energy made manifest through money and through actions.
Right.
Everything gets fed, except us, of course. But, people are energy. I mean, people are, well, they have energy in them and they're food. And that's all people have ever been, food.
So how do you see that manifesting itself in the amongst the people today?
Them being food.
Yes.
Well, for example, somebody, let's say, goes to jail, right? And it could be something they did, something they didn't do. What are they using that energy for? Making, well, actually, a lot of the labor is done by prisons. A
Yeah.
lot of labor is
Yeah.
it. So they keep them trapped in a cage like a little battery,
Right.
and you're in that factory making stuff for nothing. Your family a lot of times has to give you money for you to survive in there.
Right.
Right? But they're using your energy, aren't you? And you're not getting anything from it. So that's how slavery's still around too.
Right.
Also, the 14th Amendment, once you get arrested, and you're in jail, you are legally a slave and they can legally enslave you. Right. And they use your energy.
And it seems like we don't even we don't care about that.
Of course not, because we've been trained to hate ourselves, hate others who look like us, and when something bad happens to somebody who look like us, yay, glad it happened to them, glad it was down the street, as long as it doesn't happen in my front yard, because we hate ourselves. Look in the mirror, hate what you look like, hate others who look like you, hate your kids. A lot of it's because of these images, have everybody out here acting all ghetto and everything like that, as if all Indian people act like that, which a lot of us don't. And, that's energy as well, because people see all that stuff on there and they play into it and they think, oh, well, good, glad that happened.
I mean, you're absolutely right about everything you're saying. You're absolutely right about everything you're saying. And whatever the outcome of this race is, what advice would you give the people on the spiritual tip? What to look forward to, or what to expect.
The same thing that you expect, the same thing that's been happening, ever since voting has been around. Not a goddamn thing, because you haven't done anything. So there's nothing to expect. And I would say energetically, I just don't put my energy in it. I didn't even vote. I'm not voting for what? I mean, unless we're going to be talking about getting our land back or whatever like that, I don't see how this benefits me.
Right.
So I'm not going to vote for people who are foreigners to the land, who certainly don't have our best interest at heart. If you think, Donald Kiss My Rump Trump is going to do anything for you, you're out of your mind. If you think Petty Joe and Camel Toe Harris are going to do anything for you,
Okay,
you know,
hold up. Okay, now I gotta ask you. You, you seem like you're an intelligent sister. What do you
yep.
think? What do you think about your fellow sister in the those Greek lettered organizations scuffling Kamala Harris through the ranks, up through them? Kamala Harris hiding behind them. Then she sprang for the California Attorney General, and now she's at the steps of the White House. What do you think about your Greek sister in making that possible?
I'm an American Indian. If they Greeks, they ain't my sisters. And just because they look like me, they certainly are not. You want to put this woman up here who, first of all, slept herself into her position, you know, because she was what was that guy's name? That I think he was like a governor or mayor of like California or something like that.
Excuse me, it's downtown Willie Brown to you.
Yep, yep, Mr. Downtown Willie Brown, you know, did that, and slept her way up there, then ran, I think, for Senate as an Asian American, then proceeded with the power that she has to lock up all these indigenous men, or, I'll say black because people like to call themselves black. I don't like to say that term, but I respect people. Lock up all these men on full, and there were two of them that were actually on death row who she could have gotten out with evidence but decided not to. Not only that, locked up a whole bunch of her sisters or whatever like that in jail. And there's lots of stories out about how, she was basically like a grievance to justice, you know, and people want to vote her in thinking that she's going to do what? Even the Indian, like the Hindustan community, don't like her.
So that's what I mean about supernatural encounters, spiritual warfare. Isn't that what that is?
No, it's just people being stupid.
No, no,
And
no.
I guess some of it,
I'm talking about. Um, I just don't look at it as I look at all of these nations coming over here. Her, wherever part of Hindu she's from, they have a certain belief system. They have a certain way they do things. People that come from uh, Iran, people that come from Norway, all of these people coming over here, they all have spiritual ways and
well,
ways they do stuff.
they're they're not our ways because, see, I wouldn't mind if we had, like, if we were in charge and we had useful immigrants coming over here, that wanted to be a part of our culture and acclimate into that, and help America, meaning, like, American Indians, our nature, but, our nation. But what happens is when you get a whole bunch of foreigners coming over here, pretty soon they're going to want to make the place like what they just escaped from,
Right,
home. Because if they were so happy about where they're from and they have all this pride, Iranian American, Indian American, wherever it is, go back home.
right,
Why are you coming over here trying to make America like your home?
right,
And that's what they do. And that's what a whole bunch of people do. Because as soon as a whole bunch of them get over here, they don't want to learn the language. They want to do what they want to do. And they want to make it like back home. And the thing is, this is not your home.
right.
If you want things like your home, you should have stayed home.
They don't want to hear that.
Oh, of course not. And the thing that we also need to reckon with is none of these people are going home.
Right,
So now what are we going to do?
right.
And I've asked them
You
personally.
you got
I've asked Europeans, I've asked Asians, I've asked other people. So out of curiosity, like, are you guys going home? And some of them will look at me like, huh? And I said, oh, I'll say it for other races. I said, and they were like, no. I said, all right, so Europeans aren't going home. Asians aren't going home. Hispanics aren't going home. I mean, okay, that's like South America, but they're not our people, so they're not going home.
right,
None of these people are going home, so we better learn how to, like, work with each other, work on ourselves first. But because they were there, I said work with each other or whatever it is. But these people aren't going home, so we need to learn how to deal with them.
So what do you suggest that we do?
We need to start working amongst each other. Like, okay, everybody needs to get up out of these shops and stop making these foreigners rich. Right? If they want to come over poor, they should, be able to stay poor.
Right.
Nobody should have anything that no foreigners should have anything that Americans do not have. There is no reason, with as much money as we have in a community, that we have this many poor people struggling. Child trafficking is a problem.
Right.
Human trafficking is a problem. There is no reason for any of this.
Right. But what about our position in all that?
Well, our position of it is that, we have no self-love for one another. And the only reason this stuff happens is because we allow it.
Plain and simple, huh?
Oh, yeah. Nobody can do anything to you that you don't allow. Now, there's consequences to every single action, but it doesn't have to mean you allow it. And by allowing it, I mean you let it go on with no resistance.
No resistance.
None.
None. Well, Ray Thomas, I want to thank you for joining us tonight and letting us know, and which we should know, y'all, there's a warfare going out there against us. I mean, if you don't see it, I wonder how you can't see it.
Yeah.
Like the sister say, these people don't want to go home. Why? Because you got it good. They want what you got.
Yeah, you think they want to go back home to like shitting in the streets or whatever they were doing over there, eating dirt pancakes for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? No, they want to come over and take our stuff.
And if we allow that to happen, well, I'm not allowing it to happen. Y'all can do what y'all want to do. Knock yourself out. But just know there's all kind of entities out there ready to trip you up. And I hope this sister shared some of those with you tonight so you could be on the lookout for them.
Yep. Because if not, we're going to go extinct. If we don't start looking out for us, because every other race does it, everyone else does it except for the Indians.
Yes.
We're going to be extinct. And then pretty soon, the Europeans are going to talk about how they were the first people over here. And then the Pilgrims, well, those are the rest of the, brown people from all the rest of the country. But, because, the European can be the last samurai, the last Mexican, Cleopatra,
right,
Tutankhamun, and every goddamn thing. But, where are we at? Oh, and pretty soon they're going to have someone like Macaulay Culkin playing Michael Jackson because, oh yeah, don't you know Michael Jackson was European?
You know what?
Everyone knows that.
You know what? I said that. When I said that about him.
What?
About Michael Jackson. Remember when that Bad album came out?
Yeah.
That ain't him. That ain't him, dude. That's how long this been going on.
Yeah, when that Bad album came out, I was like, oh Lord, he looked better with brown skin and that fro. What happened to that?
And this
now
is
he transformed from an Indian man to a white woman. These surgeons are a miracle. And then try to blame it on vitiligo or revitiligo or whatever that is.
Don't you be talking about Uncle Ruckus.
I got my revitiligo. Just a splish splash of Irish.
Okay, so when you opened up the program tonight, we're gonna take this going out. When you opened up the program tonight, you were talking about Robert Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
On this note, we ended on Michael Jackson.
Oh God.
Isn't that the same thing? Because like you say, what did this dude do to get in that position?
Well, from what I heard, he had to take a position, touching his ankles. You know what I mean? There's
Well,
rumors
yeah,
about that, so that's probably how he got there.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
saying, like the
I,
whole Jackson 5, that's what they say,
yeah.
allegedly.
I have a friend of mine that tells me, she says, my mom was a secretary at Motown.
Oh Lord, poor woman.
All them dudes homosexual.
Uh,
I'm like, no, not Stevie Wonder. She goes, that's the only one nobody knows about.
well,
But
probably
every,
because since he can't see, he just act like he didn't know what was going on. That's probably why.
well, okay, whatever, whatever. I mean, but I can, but she was like, I was like, everybody, she said. And then she reminded me of something, and I was like, damn, you absolutely right. She said, these are the arts. And in the arts, when you go back and look at the history of the arts, who come with it, those Greek, Roman, making stuff out of clay, all they stuff was screwing little kids and all kind of shit.
Mm-hmm. Because that was actually a lot of them. It was either Greek or Roman. If you didn't have a child as like, you being a mentor to or whatever like that, there was something wrong with you,
Right,
you
right,
know. And I forgot what the official term for it was, but all of them had little boys or, 10-year-olds or
right,
whatever it is
right.
that they would mentor, have their wives, and plow the kid on the side, and they like boys because they couldn't get pregnant or whatever, and then,
Right.
or maybe they just like them. Even in the Roman, was it Persian or the Roman army, they liked them to be, there was a sector of them that was homosexual because, basically, when people, get anal penetration done on them, that's a power center back there. So it's like, it would be like you were more loyal if you had sex with each other.
You're what?
Oh, you have a power center, like, I guess like
Right,
up your asshole or whatever. I
right,
forgot exactly where it is. So that's why you don't really want people taking your butt,
right,
you know?
right, right, right.
So when they would do that kind of stuff, because a lot of them, I'm not sure which sect, it might have been like, I think it was like the strongest sect. It might have been either the Greek or the Roman army. They were gay. Just like in the Nazis, you had
Right,
a lot of those SS, they were gay.
right,
And, so if you have a lover in there, you're more likely to fight even harder
right.
because if you see your lover about to get killed, you know, there's a certain amount of rage that sets in.
Man.
Yep.
No,
So, that's one thing, everybody. Don't let somebody take your ass.
don't let nobody take your ass.
That's right.
Um, your email address. How do people get in touch with you?
Oh, right. So, it's holistic artisan. So that's WHOLISTICARTISAN at gmail.com. Or, my Facebook is Ray Thomas, and I'll talk to people on there, but I don't really put anything up on my page because I don't feel like it. So,
Contact the sisters if you got any questions on what we talked about tonight. She may have some of the answers that you're looking for, or maybe she can send you to it, you know. But the supernatural, how these people are coming in on us, making us take on their religious ideologies while you turn your back on yours.
yep.
For real, cuz that's where you at. No, it sickens me, really. It sickens me. It's like, damn. And people just come over here and just pimp us.
Yep.
And it's
Like
hideous.
$2 hose.
$2 hoes. So thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me on and sharing your platform with me tonight. Thank you.
Please, you're welcome anytime. Stand by for a second. And this concludes another episode of African Americans Ain't Africans. Listen, find your people. Look in these towns. Look in a lot of these towns that were abandoned because a lot of your people was ran off their land. They came through with the army running you off the land. Go check them records. Find out who your grandmama was. Find out what town she was lived in. Find out when she lived there. What happened when she was living there. They've been gentrifying for a long time. Find your folks. We'll see you tomorrow night. We're going to have the American Indian Party tomorrow. Check these cats out. Peace.